welcome to my channel, where we discuss everything and all things politics, economy, and development in Nigeria and around the world. In this video, I want to talk about Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State of the United States government, who died on November 29, 2023, and what he said about the Igbos of Nigeria. But before we go into what he said about the Igbos, it is important that we look at who he is so that we'll be able to appreciate the importance of what he said about the Igbos of Nigeria. Now, Henry Kissinger is a man who has transcended to eternity at the ripe age of 100 years. As National Security Advisor and later Secretary of State in the Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford administrations, he dominated the foreign policy in the United States of America for years and played key roles in directing world affairs. Kissinger was as controversial as he was respected for his immense intellectual presence, which he deployed in the service of humanity as an academic, politician, and diplomat. While historians and friends extol his diplomatic achievements, critics assail his foreign policy actions. It must, however, be acknowledged that he functioned at a time of deep division and strife in the United States over the Vietnam War, even as his long career inspired decades of debate on the morality of his actions. The Nixon daughters, reacting to his death, said that he was one of America's skilled diplomats who worked with our father in a partnership that produced a generation of peace for our nation. Till his death, his voice was respected and his expertise sought after in efforts aimed at resolving knotty issues that impinge on international relations, using the instrumentality of his Kissinger Associates, an international geopolitical consulting firm. To analysts, he was a go-to advisor for many American presidents over his decades in politics. Born in Germany of Jewish ancestry, he fled Nazi Germany in 1938 and served in the Army of the United States of America. It is to the credit of this Harvard brother that a policy of detente became a viable tool that eased strained relations and led to arms control treaties between the United States and the then Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR. This foreign policy strategist of considerable clout has the misfortune of being perceived as leaving behind a complicated legacy which still resonates in America's relation with China, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. With the doctrine of rapprochement, he orchestrated the opening of relations between the United States and the People's Republic of China. Similarly, Kissinger adopted what was later known as shuttle diplomacy in the crisis-ridden Middle East that helped bring an end to Yom Kippur War in 1973 and negotiated the Paris Peace Accord, which ended American involvement in the Vietnam War. In 1973, he shared Nobel Peace Prize for his involvement in talks that ended that war. That honor to him generated a kind of controversy befitting of a man of his complex stature. Held for his brilliance and statesmanship, Kissinger was also criticized for his support for anti-communist dictatorships. He remained unapologetic on his stand, and for good reason. In view of this, he had been seen as having anti-communist proclivity, of course, which is expected for somebody of his status who is coming from a capitalist nation. He was known for his anti-communist proclivities, which he used in driving American policy at the time. And he was the champion for the United States war with communist socialist idea of the Leninist Marxist coup. And he was, because of the work he did, he was instrumental to the collapse of the Soviet Union, to his credit. Reacting to his death, President of the United States, Joe Biden, recalled, "I was a young senator and he was Secretary of State giving briefing on the state of the world." Biden went on to add that throughout our careers, we often disagreed, but often strongly. But from the first briefing, his fierce intellect and profound strategic focus was evident. Long after retiring from government, he continued to offer his service and ideas to the most important policy discussions across multiple generations. The current United States Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, has very fond memories of his predecessor in office. In Blinken's words, "To serve as America's chief diplomat today is to move to a world that bears Henry's lasting imprint. Relationships he forged, to the tools he pioneered, to the architecture he built." Chinese Foreign Relations Ministry, reacting to the death of Kissinger, praised his historic contribution to Sino-American ties and described him as an old and good friend of Chinese people. On his part, Russian President Vladimir Putin praised Kissinger for his contributions to U.S.-Soviet relations and described him as a wise and visionary statesman. Putin said, "Henry Kissinger's name is inextricably linked with his pragmatic foreign policy, which in his time paved the way for detente in international relations, in international tensions, and made it possible to reach the most important Soviet-American agreements that contributed to strengthening global security." The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his reaction, referred to Kissinger as a prominent figure in international relations during the late 20th century and added that few diplomats in living memory have had a greater influence on international affairs than Kissinger. French President Emmanuel Macron described Kissinger as a giant of history, whose century of ideas and diplomacy had a long-standing influence on his time and on our world. Now, this is the man we are talking about, Henry Kissinger. He was a diplomat of diplomats. His views are still being studied today in institutions of learning, institutions that have to do with diplomacy. His role in championing American relations, in brokering relationship with China, and so many other landmark achievements that was done under him are still being studied today and will continue to be studied. Now, what did he say about the Igbos? About the Igbos of Nigeria? Now, what he said about the Igbos of Nigeria was contained in a declassified White House papers. That White House paper was titled "Memoranda to the President." Memoranda to the President, and it was sent in 1969, 28 January 1969, and it has to do with the Biafran War at the time. So he sent a memoranda to the president of the time, and he was talking about the ongoing war in Nigeria. Okay, and this is what he said about the Igbos of Nigeria. He said the Igbos are the wandering Jews of West Africa, gifted, aggressive, westernized, at best envied and resented, but mostly despised by the mass of their neighbors in the Federation. Let me take it again. Say the Igbos are the wandering Jews of West Africa, gifted, aggressive, westernized, at best envied and resented, but mostly despised by the mass of their neighbors in the Federation. They have fought well. That's where I'm stopping. I don't want to go further into that because he was now talking about how the war was going. But the important thing here is that he described the Igbos as gifted, aggressive, westernized, at best envied and resented. And he said that they are the wandering Jews of West Africa. Now, this is an information that is coming from somebody who is also a Jew and happens to be a top official of the United States government. In a memorandum he was sending to the President of the United States. So you can see that what he was, by classifying the Igbos as Jews, he has given credence to those who strongly believe that Igbos are Jews. Okay, you may agree or disagree with him, but one thing you cannot take away is the fact that Henry Kissinger has said what he thinks about the Igbos. And if you look at how he described the Igbos, that they are the wandering Jews of West Africa, gifted, aggressive, westernized, at best envied and resented, but mostly despised by the mass of their neighbors in the Federation. It is no different from the way the Jews were being viewed in Europe, in Germany at the time, even in France and other places where the Jews really had terrible times with their neighbors. But just for you to understand that Henry Kissinger looked at the Igbos and he was so certain he wasn't doing a guesswork to submit a memorandum of a guesswork to the President of the United States. He said they are the wandering Jews of West Africa. Think about it. You may agree or disagree with him, but that's point give credence to those who believe that Igbos are Jews. You may agree or disagree with him. Thank you for watching this video. And if you are new to my channel, you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell. When you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, anytime I have a new video, you'll be among the first. God bless you. Now, under this video, you have a link that will take you to Jumia to buy any phone that is connected with this link. And if you buy through this link, Jumia is going to give you 40% off from the normal price. I think that's a good bargain for Christmas. Thank you, and God bless you.